We have a show together called The Him and Her Show, where it's definitely both of our perspectives on all different kinds of things. It's kind of a buffet, if you will.
And I'll just say this about men. Some men struggle with really successful women.
From an entrepreneurial standpoint in a marriage, it is important for you each to sort of have your own area.
The people that went full wacko COVID vaccine jab, they're still doing it. I have no interest in trying to convince them why they're wrong. I'm not a big believer in wasting breath and time.
I'm going to remind you of that next time you disagree with me. I'm going to say you're wasting breath and time.
If Lauryn ever starts to get like to the point where she's being too masculine, I'll be like, hey, put your fucking balls away.
You're acting like a little bitch because you ate too much soy. I'm like, wipe the sand out of your vagina.
When I say
Chill on the soy milk. He's like more bigger picture. And I feel like I love the detail.
That's awesome.
How are you guys?
Lauryn and Michael, welcome to my podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for letting me use your studio. This is very convenient.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would like to say we were much more gracious, but we're much too lazy to leave this place. We just stay in here.
No, I'm used to seeing you against Black.
Yeah, I actually usually get people to come to my house and then I record on their podcast in my house too. So I get it.
That's nice between cold plunges.
We kind of have home field advantage now, though. Hopefully it doesn't throw you.
No. This is good. I needed a change of scenery. So before we get into everything, like who are you guys and what is it that you both do? Because I know you both do similar things, but also different things.
How would we describe what we both do? I think what I would say is I am primarily the Skinny Confidential, which is a product line. And we also have a show together called The Him and Her Show, where it's definitely both of our perspectives on all different kinds of things. It's kind of a buffet, if you will. And then Michael runs his own company, which we're sitting in.
Well, I used to really struggle with this question. Funny enough, people say like, who are you and what do you do? And I think as an entrepreneur, now I just describe myself as an entrepreneur. It's like you kind of try to put it in these terms where people are like, okay, I understand exactly what that is. But high level, I'm an entrepreneur. I've run different kind of businesses in manufacturing and commerce and media all throughout my career, real estate. But now primarily what I do is I'm the CEO and founder of a company called Dear Media. And we produce primarily shows, podcasts like the one Lauryn and I do. And then I host a show with Lauryn.
How do you choose who Dear Media kind of collaborates with and help those people grow?
I screenshot him. Who needs to know? And
the truth comes out. Person.
I'll give you like kind of the origin story. So again, like I was in advertising before and Lauryn and I started a show together, which we still host today, which you were just on.
Yeah.
And we basically felt that a lot of the people servicing those shows had very little understanding of the entire digital space, right? It was like very narrow focus on just podcasts and a lot of former radio executives that were doing basically radio advertising. And I remember we joined a company and I just thought like, wow, they're missing so many opportunities here. But from my advertising perspective, I was like, why is there not a place that reaches a very concentrated, at scale, lucrative demo, which in Dear Media's case is like Gen Z, millennial females, so that not only the audience could come and say, okay, there's like-minded content across a different scope or different range and scope of shows, but at the same time, the advertisers from a monetizing perspective could come and say, okay, I don't want to cherry pick one show here and one show there. It's like I can just go and say, I'm going to deploy my entire female ad budget here. And then, from there you were able to leverage into other opportunities. So that's like kind of how we decide now. We just look at it from are they aligned? Is it some type of content we're missing? Is it something the audience is looking for? And we go from there.
I also think the pendulum swinging towards podcast being sort of the new mainstream media. Like we're no longer going to like a Fox News or a CNN. I mean, I'm not. I don't think you are either to get our news. I think a lot of people are consuming things like Peterson Academy, a podcast, like it's a different form of media now.
The bet that I think we've made is that I don't even talk about it as a podcast network. I think that was a limiting way to, like, that's what other companies in our space were doing, is like, we're a podcast network. I just looked at it as we're a modern media company that leverages these kind of shows on video, audio, and then into different opportunities, whether it's live events or subscription content or commerce businesses.
I saw events that you guys do too. Yeah. It's impressive. It's very well branded. I'm always jealous of your branding. Lauryn, I've been following your blog since a really long time ago. Like, I don't know when it started, but I think I was on there perusing around Skinny Confidential blog in like 2011, maybe, or 12. When did you start it? It was like back, like I was almost in high school. It was really a while ago.
That's wild to me. I think what I find so interesting about you is that you are so smart and you're so well-spoken and articulate and like you're so multifaceted, but you also, and I know because we've texted, you love like the beauty, the diet, the fitness, the health too. It's very multifaceted. So that's cool that you've been following for that long. It's been around since 2010.
Okay, yeah. So right at the beginning.
A long time ago.
Well, I get like, I think it's really naive of people to assume that how you look doesn't matter immensely. Like what you do matters immensely, but I mean, like how you look defines so much about you, right? That's why people need to know how to dress a certain way to be taken seriously. Like you can't go into a nice hotel if you're dressed like a homeless person, unless you're so famous they know who you are, right? Like, so yeah, I like the beauty stuff for sure.
I think though it's almost, and you probably know this, you can use it to your advantage.
Yeah.
Like I love that people, especially when I was blonde, because it's different when you're blonde.
It's very different when you're blonde.
It's very different. They underestimate you. I'm so hard that you really can use it as leverage in a lot of situations if you're clever.
Yeah, 100%. You've almost influenced me to go brown so many times, and I don't think I can do it because I know how people react to me when I have brown hair, and I just like, I think I spent my entire life not being taken seriously anyway, and was like, well, if I'm not going to be taken seriously, I might as well have lip injections and blonde hair.
You would look good brown.
Are you naturally brown?
I'd love you blonde.
I'm naturally like light brown.
Okay, yeah,
which is like a mousy, I don't know, it was always like nondescript brown. So it was like, nah.
You could do a deep chocolate brown and it would frame your face and I think it would look great. However, I do like you blonde. So I think you can't go wrong.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. So you guys work together and you're very successful. How do you balance you guys have 2 kids. How do you balance kid time, work time, having your own separate time? Let's do kid time first.
Do we balance?
I don't know that balance is the right word. Okay. I think I run my life, I've realized, like a marathon sprinter. So okay. I will go to LA and I will literally do 4 days in one. I will strategically pack each day. So it's so packed that there's no more toothpaste to squeeze out when I lay my head on the pillow. And then it gives me time to come to Austin and like put on my mom hat and be really, really present with my children and not be running around like a psycho. So and that's when I kind of am like preparing to be a high performer. So whether it's cold plunge sauna, lifting weights, taking walks, like I'm still working, but it's not at the same vigor as when I'm in an LA or a New York. It's a different pace. So I would say that's sort of how I look at my life is it's like I have to slow down to speed up to be efficient in LA and New York the way I need to be. I don't know if that's a balance or it's more like I go hard when I need to go hard and then I lay off when I need to lay off.
We think about it, and I talk about it all the time in the company, as like impact. And so when I say impact, I tell the people that we work with all the time, like, I do not care how hard you work. Like, working hard is for the bees. Anyone can work hard. I mean it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
I care about, like, ants work hard, right? I care about the impact. And so the way that we think about our work is, to Lauren's point, we'll go somewhere for 2 weeks and we will just go balls to the wall, super aggressive, work, get a bunch of stuff done. Like for the podcast, last week we did 18 shows in a 9-day period, right? It's a lot. In addition to that other stuff. And what that'll do is we'll do all that front work to free up all of that content. And then we'll go back. And then now we're back in Texas. Like, okay, the impacts, we're going to be like a lot of time with our kids, a lot of time with family, a lot of time with each other, a lot slower. But we'll go for those like really meaningful moments. And what I tell people all the time is like, how far are you really like pushing the ball forward, whether it's in your relationship or as a parent or in your business, in spurts of time? Because there's something to be said about consistency, which is great for certain things. But if you're just consistent all the time, showing up and doing the same thing all the time and ending up in the same place, like you're probably not having the impact you want.
I think squeezing 4 days into one and also ingraining my children into my life. So when we are in LA, my kids are with us most of the time. Like they're there. They're seeing me work. They're seeing me go out to dinner. Sometimes I'm like, the other day we had a dinner that we had to attend to work, and then we ordered a souffle. And so then I went upstairs, got my daughter and my son and brought them downstairs, and the souffle was sitting on the table and they could eat the souffle with us and be there for 30 minutes. So I'm constantly like trying to figure out ways for them to be integrated into our life and see what we do. And I want them to see that movement. But then I also want them to be able to come home and see us really as a mom and dad and not all the stuff we do.
But in terms of our marriage, we'll have conversations where we'll look at each other like this week is going to be intense work.
Yeah.
And we just know like probably not going to be the best time to try to be romantic and probably not the best time to, have that serious relationship
conversation. You did try to stick it in though, like the other day after I had 45 podcasts and I was like up until 12 doing work and I was like, bitch, I'm going to lay here.
I was trying to get... I
literally laid there, I think. I was like, we've been married for a long time. I could use a break. Like,
we're talking about impact here.
Put my headphones on. I could use some Joe Dispenza meditation and you just get what you need to get done.
We'll look at that and say, okay, after we're done with this like intense, whatever it is, like then we'll say, okay, next week's all about the kids and all that. And, I just think it's unrealistic for entrepreneurs or really anyone in life that's trying to have I don't believe in work-life balance. I don't think it exists. I think anytime you're working, you're obviously taking time away from your kids. Anytime you're with your kids, you're taking time away from your work.
I will say this. We do not do anything that is not worth being away from our children. So we don't go out to dinner. I mean, I think you guys are saying we're not going to go out to dinner with every podcast guest that like we're very like thoughtful about. Okay, like this person, like we really want to get to know. Like we're at home when we can be at home.
Yeah,
you guys it seems like are the same way.
I think that's exactly spot on. We were like, how do you like Scottsdale? I was like, oh, I really like it. I haven't really been outside, but like the view is incredible. But that's about it. And then like 2 restaurants we go to.
Yeah, we don't have a very big social life here in Austin, to be honest. Like part of the reason we left LA,
I would say
it's almost non-existent, right?
Yeah.
But I think when we're here, we've decided this is the place where we're well with our kids. And Ryan Holiday, I don't know if you're familiar with him, was on the show, and he was saying, people think that when they get to this certain level of success or they reach a certain milestone that they're going to be able to do all of these things. Like you're going to go to the fancy parties and you're going to go to the dinners and you're going to
the political
work and
network.
Like, likely you're saying no to a lot more at that point because you have to decide the weight of, if it's taking time away from your kids or relationship or whatever it may be.
The more successful you get, the more opportunities you are, but then that gives more of a reason to say no because you have to focus on your craft. Because if you don't focus on your craft, you can't then progress more in your career. So it's sort of like an interesting dance that you have to do.
Yeah, you really have to prioritize.
Yeah.
Do you guys do at New Year's or something? Do you guys map out the next year?
We have a notes app that we each have that has very set goals and visions. And it's funny, I just talked to a couple the other day and they were fighting about like where they wanted to go and be. And I said, do you guys have like not a vision board? I don't like that. Like an execution board on where you want to be.
Essentially a plan.
Like a plan in a year, in 5 years, in 10 years. And they kind of like looked at each other and they're like, no. And I'm like, then how are you guys supposed to get aligned on anything? We talk about what it looks like when we're retired, what it looks like when we're grandparents, like what it looks like in the next 10 years, in the next 5 years. You have to get aligned with your partner and have a clear vision on not just work, but finances, kids. How many kids do you want? We even have like how many dogs we want in 5 years. Like it's like we're very detailed with where we want to be.
We talk about like how long do you want to be public and have a public platform. We talk about all that. I think a lot of couples that we've talked to over the years, the ones that sometimes struggle are the ones that they assume they're both on the same plan and same trajectory.
Yeah.
And like even little things where like maybe I'll use a stupid example. Someone wants to open a bake shop, like a family bake shop. Maybe the wife and husband want to do it. And the wife's idea is like, I want to open this one bake shop and just like have this one place and it's going to be great and we'll go there. And the husband's like, I want to have this go international and become a franchise. Like it's the same thing, but it's a completely different plan and idea. And so we talk all the time like, hey, am I going too far, too less? Are you aligned? Is this where you want to end up, not end up? And like one of the things we do, it's not like a New Year's plan to sit there and say, this is the year. But, and I don't remember who told me this. It might've been, and he didn't tell me personally, but where I learned it was maybe Warren Buffett or one of those guys. It's like 7-1-1, where there's a 7-year plan of exactly like where you want to be financially and where you want to live and how many kids. And like, that's the far plan. It's so far off that it's not close enough. And then The one is 1 year. What do you need to execute in that year to like make progress against that 7-year plan? And then the other one is the month. Like, what do you need to do that month to hit the micro goals to hit the year? We do stuff like that.
If you guys want to purchase this magical supplement, see how it shines, and reduce your poisoning by alcohol, we're available on Amazon now. And if you type in after party and scroll around or go to fullerhealth.com or check the link in the description or pinned comment, it's there. Look at this packaging. It glistens. How extra is this? Can I do this without ripping? I can indeed. Here it is, After Party. There we go. It's available on Amazon and I will link it below, but please reduce your damage from alcohol if you drink, because it's silly not to. There's a money back guarantee. It really works. I hope you're enjoying this episode. So you guys have known each other for a long time, right?
Since we were 12.
So how did that, I mean, that was just like coincidence. How did that work out so well? Like you guys are both entrepreneurial. I mean, I think it's really, I was worried. So I'm divorced and I was like, I'm fine by myself. I got to the point where I was like, I'm fine by myself. I've like, it's better than being with somebody who doesn't want to do things, as many things as me. And it turns out that there are a lot of people, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with this either. Like there are a lot of people that don't want to work all the time or go out and change the world in like different ways. And no wonder that's, I think, a normal yearn for people to have. But you guys just coincidentally both had that, or did you have to kind of negotiate that?
I think we're very much on the same frequency, but I have the same thought of you is if I got divorced, not from him, but from some random guy.
Set the bar so high.
No, but I would be like that too. I would be like, I would rather be alone than be with someone that is fine just coasting by. It's because what it does is it drains you in a weird way, right? It's not uplifting. Like I want a partner who is a true partner. So I think where that comes from is we always have been on the same frequency since we were very little.
What I will acknowledge now that you bring it up, and I've thought about this a lot over the years, is it maybe is a bit uncommon that we're both so type A and so driven and somehow still functional in a relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so, right? Because you see a lot of entrepreneurs and very successful people that can't, they're
it's
just,
like who's leading,
it's
who's
multiple
following.
Divorces too. Or they spend all their time at work because the people at work are more interesting in the relationship. So I think that's probably the norm.
I think as I've gotten older, I've realized that maybe I think a lot of guys sometimes struggle, and I'll just say this about men. Some men struggle with really successful women because they're used to a dynamic, a very like traditional dynamic where maybe the man's the breadwinner and the woman's not as much, or maybe the man's kind of like the lead breadwinner and and I grew up in a household where both my parents were entrepreneurs, but I grew up watching my mom work all the time. And so for me, like most of the women I have in my life that I'm close with, that even my closest friends are typically very strong entrepreneurial women that are doing a lot of things. And I realized I've got.
I'm not talking about myself either. Like his best friends,
all like the women that I, even with Dear Media, I co-founded it with a woman, and I get along with that kind of dynamic. But I've also seen some of my guy friends that start to get with a girl like you or like Lauryn, and it throws them because like, okay, now there's this woman, they've got a public platform, they're successful, all these things. I'm inherently fine as a behind the scenes person. I always thought I was going to be behind the scenes, and so for me, the dynamic was like, yeah, you go out there and tap dance and do your thing. But because of that, I'm not threatened by it. And I think we look at it as like we're like I'm her biggest cheerleader and vice versa. And we push each other.
And critic.
Yeah, and critic too.
Yeah. But I get that.
I guess it's an uncommon dynamic, I think. And I think it has to do a lot of just the way traditional households are set up, where I guess like we are not a traditional household at all. Like I never expect Lauryn to have dinner on the table for me. I don't expect her to, beat at the tune of my drum and to go into my, like the common misconception is people think we work together on everything. Like she has her own business with her own team and I have my own business with my own team. We do the podcast together, but we push and motivate each other.
I do think though, from an entrepreneurial standpoint in a marriage, it is important, I think, for you each to sort of have your own area. So like he does Dear Media, I do the Skinny Confidential product line. We come together, we do the show, and it's very defined. And like I'm more in the creative, he's more analytical and logistical and operational. And I think that it's really been thought out and defined though. And I think that's where couples maybe go wrong is it's like there's like a wishy-washiness to who's in what bucket.
Yeah, she will come to me and say like, this is the brand, this is what I'm doing. And my only, like, I don't get into like, I would do this. Like, that's her lane. Sometimes I'll say, hey, what do you think about like tweaking this or tweaking that?
He did tell me to launch mouth tape. He came to me.
That's a good idea.
He said, hey, yo, your sales on mouth tape, you got to launch it. But did he say to make it pink in the lips with the brand with the silver tin? No, he didn't. That was me. So he does like see the bigger, he's like more bigger picture. And I feel like I love the detail.
That's awesome.
How are you guys?
We overlap a lot. Like
Okay.
there are definitely things that Jordan's better at than I am. And there are things that I'm already pretty good at. So I had to do a lot of negotiating on my dad's behalf when just running his brand. And that's like talking to lawyers, and I didn't have a business background, and I have like blonde hair. So they're like, who's this bimbo? Like I had a super sketchy lawyer that I wanted to fire tell me I should stick to podcasting. I was like, that's because you're charging my dad an arm and a leg and I want to let you go. Right. That's maybe you're really good at what you do on the podcast and you should do that. Anyway, he doesn't work with us anymore.
I'm sure he doesn't.
but Jordan's better at like, I'm still, even though I'm dominant for a female, things still make me uncomfortable that don't make him uncomfortable. So I can be like, this is what needs to happen. And he knows it's what needs to happen, but I don't really want to have the conversation. Could you do it? And he's like, yeah, no problem. So there are a lot of like harder conversations, I think, that we're both on the same page with that he can have. He's more disagreeable. He's better at like letting people go and negotiating. He's just more disagreeable. So he can get things cost him less than they would cost me when he does negotiation.
Jordan also seems, and you could tell me if I'm wrong here, he also seems very confident with the fact that you're on stage a lot. Like sometimes, there's like men that like feel like insecurity when the woman is like in the spotlight.
That wouldn't work.
Yeah, it seems like he's very maybe self-assured is the word.
Yeah,
just comfortable.
Yeah, it's never been a contest.
Yeah,
that's
I think
so
it takes
annoying.
confidence, right? Yeah, and
it's confidence, it's really.
Confidence. But like there'll be things, and maybe I don't know your listener base, and our listeners is maybe similar to, or have heard me say this, but if Lauryn ever starts to get like to the point where she's being too masculine, to the point where she's like trying to, I'll be like, hey, put your fucking balls away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't need that. And
if you're acting like a little bitch because you ate too much soy, I'm like, wipe the sand out of your vagina.
When I say, when I say
Chill on the soy milk.
We have a non-traditional dynamic, but at the same time,
we don't drink soy milk.
We're very clear that like there's a man and woman in this relationship, and we play those roles.
We're we're friends. Like we've known each other since we were 12. People get mad about the banter on our podcast. Imagine knowing the person that you're with since you were 12 years old. Yep. I know how far I can push. He knows how far he can push. We have banter. It's like what works for us. We have not been dating, by the way, since we were 12. That's not what happened. But we've known each other since we were 12.
Yeah, she was chasing me since I was 12, and finally I said, all right,
He wasn't as tall as Jordan.
Fuck. When I met Lauryn, I thought she was the substitute teacher. She was fully developed, and I was a 12-year-old boy that was like 4'1". I thought she was subbing in for the teacher. I was like, okay, cool, hot new sub. And then I realized she was in my class.
Oh, that's funny. Did you guys have to figure out? So, I mean, Lauryn, you're obviously dominant for a woman compared to the average woman.
Sure.
So you'd be like screwed if you were with someone who didn't push back. Like screwed. So was that just natural, or did you have to negotiate a little bit? And like, Michael, did you have to set up boundaries? And you're like you said, you can't act like you're going too far in that direction. Jordan does the same thing to me when he's, and I'm like, I've been working all day. Of course I'm a little masculine.
I'll let her answer and I'll give you my perspective.
Go ahead.
Well, okay, like I said earlier, I think it's uncommon. We're both very type A. I'm used to being in charge of my life and in charge of the business I run. She's used to being in charge of it. But in the same realm, I want her to thrive and be herself and do everything that makes her special, because I think that like I wouldn't change anything about her. But if it gets to the point where we're in the relationship dynamic and I need to say, pump the fucking brakes, buddy, or put your balls away. Like, I'm not scared to do that with her. And when I joke with her all the time, when we would get heated, I'd be like, good luck, any other guy. Like, because both of us, I would do terrible with a woman, and I have done terrible with women who let me just run wild over them and just kind of becomes the Michael show. Like, it's not a healthy relationship. It's not good. I need a little bit of that check. I had a mother who checked me hard, and like that's the dynamic I'm used to. But I think same for her. It's like if she was with some guy that couldn't handle this and was trying to kind of like contain her, that also wouldn't go well.
No, it wouldn't go well. I definitely, I've always been dominant since I was little. I'm an oversharer. I say what I mean and I mean what I say. And like, I think what you get on the podcast is who I am in person. Like it is what it is. And not everyone likes me, and I'm totally fine with that. I actually don't. I like we talked about on our podcast, like bad press, fine, like whatever. I'm not for everyone. I get that.
Yeah, like I'll be in the audience and she'll say wild stuff, and I'll be laughing. Like I think it's funny, like when she does that kind of stuff.
But listen, sometimes I could take it down a notch. I'm self-aware enough to know that sometimes it's a little much.
We had dinner one night with a preacher, like an actual like priest, and his wife. And Lauryn was like cussing up a storm, and I was just like, "This is."
I didn't know you can't cuss in front of a preacher.
It was wild. I was like, I grew up Catholic, and I'm sitting there.
I gifted them my book, which is called "Get the Fuck Out of the Sun." I like signed it like cute with a heart.
And she's not.
No, you can't do that.
The thing that's endearing is she's not trying to do it for shock value, and she's not trying to do it to make them uncomfortable, and she's highly respectful. But it's just like the fact that goes over your head. Like I'm sitting there all prim and proper, like, oh my God, I can't offend the
I'm
priest,
watching
you know?
like the show, The Secret Lives of Mormon Girls. Have you watched
Oh no, I saw that. We were watching, good. I hate to say this because I really don't like watching TV, but if you're doing really long days and then I just go to sleep, I won't sleep. So I'll be like, okay, The Bachelorette. Yeah. That's what I like. I just need something so dumb.
I get it.
And like, so I saw an ad for that show. I was like, this is, whew.
I always get this fucked up, and I always wonder if I'm wrong about this, but I think more empathetic people, and I think about empathy as understanding the perspective of other people, are, I tailor myself that way. Like if I'm in a room, I'm like, okay, you can't be blasting off here because it's going to make people uncomfortable. I understand the perspective and I want to make them comfortable. It's not that I want to diminish myself or my personality. I just try to be
probably more, it's like it falls under agreeableness. And my agreeableness is really low. So I'll usually just, if it's a room full of people and they're going to be annoyed or something, I'll just be quiet and then leave. Like I'm not going to, unless it's something like I was pretty vocal about the COVID lockdown and like mandatory vaccines and things. It's like, I like that kind of thing doesn't bother me because I'm like, that's widespread, needs to be talked about. But I don't think I care enough to be in a room where I won't stay with that group of people anyway. But that is compassion. It falls under agreeableness, and you might be higher than Lauryn.
Well, but and I don't.
It's
I think some
possible.
people that maybe are not as empathetic. I don't mean like they're not sympathetic. I just mean that they have a much stronger perspective of their own, and it's hard for them to see the perspective of other people.
Yeah, I don't even know if that's wrong. Like I hadn't met very many people that were more disagreeable than me because I'm pretty disagreeable. But I feel other people's discomfort. Even if I don't agree with their discomfort, I've had employees where I'm like, you're so uncomfortable, it's making me uncomfortable, even if they're wrong. And I think Jordan, sometimes I think doesn't even notice because he doesn't feel it. And then he's right still, because it's like, if they're wrong and uncomfortable, then who cares? But I can feel it enough that I'm like, oh.
I'm not in the, I don't feel.
Lauryn's like, I've never experienced that.
No. I actually, that's interesting that you say that, because seeing you online, it seems like you are comfortable if someone doesn't agree with you. Like,
100%.
It seems like you're fine with it.
It's more like people, it's a very specific situation. It's when you know you're going to ask somebody to do something that's pushing them a little bit too far beyond what they're comfortable, I would prefer not to ask because I already know it's going to make them uncomfortable.
That's why you just say, Jordan, come on over.
Jordan will do that, and generally they'll say yes. And sometimes I'm just wrong and I've misjudged that. Or sometimes you can push people a little bit and then.
Yeah, I mean, I don't feel a personal obligation.
I don't even know who's right. I think he's right, probably, not me.
I think you're both right, but I think it just depends on the way you're viewing it. I don't feel any personal response. I said this when like somebody got mad for saying, I don't feel any personal responsibility to make people feel comfortable or safe. Like I say what I want and do what I want and all that, but I will not go out of my way to make people uncomfortable for reasons that I deem unnecessary. So like if it's something I'm going to go and do my own thing anyway. You may disagree with it, but I don't need to then sit there and convince you why I'm right and you're wrong if you're like set on being your way. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, I think the problem with a lot of this back and forth politically is like, some people are just set, and no matter what you say or do, they don't care. They're going to keep doing the same. Like, for example, the people that went full wacko COVID vaccine jab and they're still doing it, I have no interest in trying to convince them why they're wrong at this point. Like, you're going to just do your thing. I'm not going to do that thing, and I'm going to tell you why I'm not going to do that thing. But like, if you're on jab 9 and you're wondering what's going on in your life, and it's not like, that's on you, you know?
Yeah.
I'll say things like that, and people, you know, get mad or not. But like, I don't feel a need to go educate those people.
Yeah,
even though maybe fair. I just did.
Yeah, just a little.
Sideways.
This is sideways education.
But you know what I'm saying? Like,
oh yeah.
Some people are just so set.
Yeah, and then it's a waste of time.
Yeah.
Mostly.
Yeah, I'm not a big believer in wasting breath and time.
Yeah.
I'm going to remind you of that next time you disagree with me. I'm going to say you're wasting breath and time.
As somebody who talks for a living.
Yeah.
That's funny. We are obsessed with your ice roller. Jordan is like more like unhealthily obsessed with it. We have like 4 of them and like double roll to like save time.
We could get you some more.
Anytime you guys need ice rollers.
Just hoard them up.
Do you have the little one?
You have a mini ice roller?
Yeah, I got to get you the little one.
I've been packing the large ice roller when I travel.
Well, see, I designed the big one after a dildo. I actually brought a dildo to the manufacturer and was like, I need it to feel this thick and girthy. So it's hard to travel with. Like, it would be hard to travel with a dildo. So we made a littler one that's like less dildo-y.
Okay. I need to see this. I love the ice roller. The mouth tape was a really good idea. There's no girly mouth tape.
No, there's no girly mouth tape. And it's absolutely incredible what it does for energy. It's truly changed my life. Like, I cannot sleep without it. And I also noticed that it's like helped make this muscle stronger, the masseter muscle, which is like supported my tongue posture. People don't realize when you're sleeping and your mouth is open, it is the most aging thing that you can do for your face, because think about the gravity of your mouth just hanging open all night.
Oh my gosh, I hadn't even considered
Gravity ages you.
Not to mention all the water you're losing
really like
all night.
So anti-aging. Like, I'm obsessed with it. I don't shut up about it. I tell all my family members, like, if you're not mouth taping, it doesn't have to be mine. I've called down to room service because I like forgot it. And I'll use masking tape. Like, I will not go to sleep without my mouth tape shot. Well, also, sorry, Michael.
No, but Mikhaila, for you may not suffer as much as other people because you have such a meat-based diet that your jaw muscles are strong. A lot of people that don't have that diet, their jaw
surviving
muscles
off
are
jerky.
weak. Yeah.
Oh,
yes.
So they're
your jaw is going to get
you know?
stronger and stronger and stronger because you're eating that strip loin. It's so good for the diet.
Mm-hmm.
My kids, when they want smoothies, I'm like, can you choose some meat?
You need it. Do they eat jerky? Kids love jerky.
I try to get them to eat jerky. You know what they eat? Oh my God.
They eat the Maui Nui ones and then the Lineage ones by Paul Saladino. Have you seen those?
I haven't seen that.
I want to know actually if you can eat this. Look at the ingredients.
Does it have anything other than salt?
I actually think you might.
Wait.
Yes, I know.
Wait. You know, probably. It has vinegar. I can usually do that.
I eat a bag of those a day.
Right, they look scary. I don't even know why I'm scared of this. All I eat is meat.
It's organ.
Ugh, I hate organs.
It's so good.
Oh, you're an organ person. I think people who are on the carnivore diet who are eating too many organs get vitamin A toxicity, and then they go, oh, you can't just only eat meat. Cough. Some people, maybe we have.
You know what, though? Paul told me that there's not a lot of organ in them. So if I ate a whole bag, it's not too much vitamin
A. It's a blend.
Is it good?
You can try one if you want. I don't want to give you something that maybe I'll.
Don't poison.
Okay, I'm going to try one after.
Yeah, maybe just take one and put it aside. I don't want you to like get a response.
Done. And I don't have my EpiPens with me in Austin.
Yeah, maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you should wait. You should order some.
That would be a headline. Mikhaila Peterson.
I can have Paul send you some. I'm obsessed with these though. These are my favorite. But yeah, I try to get my kids to chew all the time.
Yeah, it's so important. It's so important. I've been like, my poor little girl, she's 7, and her diet's so clean, and she had a stuffy nose chronically from 3. And I was going crazy trying to figure it out because I was like, we have clean household products. We have air filters everywhere. Like, everything's optimized. Why'd she have a chronically stuffy nose? It's environmental allergies. She started this sublingual drop from Windley. So if your kids have environmental allergies, they can just be exposed to like tiny amounts of mold and grass and trees. And over a period of about a year, it reduces environmental allergies by like 80%. It's like those immunotherapy shots people used to get, but it's just a spray under your tongue. And that's been working. But I was like, if we don't figure this out and she's sleeping with her mouth open and I can't tape her mouth because her nose is too stuffy, it was like, her jaw's going to be all recessed. That's terrible.
So, but you figured it out with the drops.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
Windley.
Yeah.
Very convenient. Yeah.
I think if you have a kid, we had someone on our podcast that is only breathing through their mouth. It's usually, this woman said, she's an expert. It's called nurturing healthy faces. It's usually an airway issue. They need to widen the palate, not get braces or pull teeth. They need to widen it. There's an episode all on it and it explains it. But a lot of kids right now are getting their palate widened and it's helping them breathe through their nose. I have that for my kid too. She has a sleep guard now, which is for palate widening. Yeah, they really work. And then you can avoid all this like these horrible things that come with having a recessed jaw and not being able to breathe and everything. Other than the way you look, just like the way you feel, the way you sleep, everything.
We have a friend,
and maybe
I'm
be able to
breathe
through your nose.
Dumb for saying this because I'm definitely not a doctor, but our friend's father unfortunately has severe dementia, and he was saying he had undiagnosed sleep apnea for a long time because of breathing issues, and there's this correlation of like the airway getting narrower and narrower and these things going up. Also cholesterol. Again, I'm not a doctor, but what we've figured out in our life is like if you can solve some of those airway issues and breathe through your nose properly, you're going to age better, you're going to feel better, you're going to sleep better. There's just so many benefits.
We love the mouth tape.
Yeah. I love the mouth tape.
The mouth tape is the one. And I got to get you the silver tin.
Okay, so we're doing, for the hangover supplements I have, and I think we had the idea for the tin because the bottle's hefty. I was like, people need enough so they're stocked for a year. Like, I don't know what I was thinking exactly.
I put mine in my tin.
But yes.
You need
Your
a little
tin
travel
is nice.
tin.
We have this like tiny tin that we're going to be rolling out.
I can't wait for that because it is big and I always want to travel with every time I am going like to have a couple cocktails. I always bring your product and it is big. I still bring it though. That's how committed
we need the tin.
Okay.
I had a whole bunch of pills dissolved in my purse.
Yeah.
From just having loose pills.
It was
horrible.
Yeah. When you're like out drinking in your clutch, you just bring a couple. That's what I do. I love those. I told you off air. I take them all the time.
We bring a separate small suitcase just for supplements. We're insane. I don't know. It's like, I don't know how this has happened.
She doesn't love that. She eats her supplement.
I used to pack an air fryer in a suitcase. Now we don't do that anymore. But like when I didn't have any money, there was another suitcase with an air fryer so I could cook. Yeah, so that's way worse than a supplement suitcase.
Are you cooking your skirt steak at home on an air fryer?
Yeah.
Every time?
Yeah.
Sometimes you grill it?
Wait, you just put it in the air fryer. That's it?
Yeah, frozen strip loin. Have you not done the frozen air fried steak?
I heard you talk about
This is the biggest hack.
Say the hack so Michael can do it for me.
Okay, if you don't like cooking.
She threw away my air fryer.
Go ahead. I'll get a new one. I want something aesthetically pleasing. Go ahead.
Okay.
We have an aesthetically pleasing one. Jordan was like the Ninja is like, no.
I can't with the eyes.
And I like the Ninja, but we have an aesthetically pleasing one now. Okay. Yeah. Frozen steak from the freezer into the air fryer for like 8 minutes each per side if they're like this thick. And then you get a medium rare steak with
even
a crisp.
Even if it's fully frozen.
No, it has to be fully frozen. Otherwise it cooks all the way through. This is like, so before I met Jordan, and when you're only eating meat, it's almost disappointing to cook because you're just like, it's like annoying. I was like, I want to spend the least amount of time cooking as possible. I probably spent like in action, 4 minutes cooking a day. It was literally just like steak, unwrapped steak, air fryer on, flip, done.
Snake Farms?
Snake River Farms.
She told me to get that. That's
okay. So you just buy a bunch of them.
I bought it. It's delicious.
Yeah.
Throw them in the freezer, then just pull them out as you need them. 8 minutes total.
Yeah, 8 and 8 usually. So if 16, they're like Snake River.
But you mentioned charred. What does that mean? That there's like
I like it with like a nice crisp on the outside,
but
like
not in the
reaction.
inside.
But can an air fryer char?
Like medium rare.
Maybe another dumb question. Air fryer, can it char? No.
Pretty much, yeah. If you cook from frozen, it can get pretty like dark and crispy on the outside. Yeah.
I'm gonna try this. I'll buy a white air fryer for the kitchen.
Okay.
Jordan, you can tell me the brand, and I would like a steak from Snake River.
Snake River Farm.
River Farm. That sounds delicious. If anyone's gonna teach you how to cook steak, it should be Mikhaila.
Okay. No, I got the recipe.
Can't wait.
Okay.
Steak in an air fryer.
Yeah, do it. It's life changing. So how did you go? Like what's your trajectory from going from having a blog and then a very popular blog to products?
Yeah, I launched the blog knowing I was launching a brand. Like I knew I knew that launching the blog would catapult other things. So I knew that I had to like put in the work with the blog, get the audience, content market, and make it bigger than Lauryn Bosstick. It's always, I don't want to be the one, and I didn't want to be the one that was constantly showing up every day. Like I always wanted other people's tips, tricks, tactics, habits, like there. It's always been that from the beginning. So all of these girls online were doing like a blog about like their nail polish or what dress they were wearing or their hair product. But like, how long can you really talk about that and keep an audience's attention? Because I use a lot of the same skincare for the last 6 years. Like, you know what I mean? Like you can only talk about yourself for so long. Yeah. So that sort of went into a bigger blog, which was still the same message, bringing a lot of women on. And then Michael, we were in Cabo over ginger margaritas, and he's like, let's do a show. And this is 8 years ago. Podcasting was like very, very new. I think Rogan and Lewis Howes were the only ones that I knew.
There's a lot of guys. Like it was like Rich Roll,
it was a boys
Tim
club.
Ferriss.
Boys
I think Serial. Like it was definitely, we weren't the first for sure. It's just, but 8 years ago was, I guess, earlier than a lot.
And I think what was interesting about that was, yes, it was my perspective and what I was interested in and the guests that I wanted to bring on. But then you also had his perspective and the guests he wanted to bring on. So you got this balance of masculine and feminine energy, but it still remained that resource. And then from there, we launched product, but the product I was, very, very meticulous about it. It had to be sort of launched with the audience. I always say the audience has kind of guided me on which products to launch. And the first one was no brainer, was the ice roller, because people were so obsessed with cold therapy from my blog. And then it's like 3 years later, we're still doing product, but each product is something that seamlessly fits into your routine. So it's a daily habit that you're doing every single day. It's not beauty, it's not wellness. It's a daily habit that's in your morning, your midday, your nighttime routine. And it's very in line with the blog. So it's like still pulling through those messages from 13 years ago.
Yeah, that's very cool. So what are you guys reading?
I just finished Blue Nights by Joan Didion. I think I'm pronouncing her name right. It was so good. But I also finished another book that I feel like you would like, called The Friday Afternoon Club by Griffin Dunn. And it's all about old Hollywood and a murder that happened. And it's like amazing. I couldn't put it down.
Oh, that's fun. Really
fun. But also the author's really well written. He's a producer in Hollywood. And then what else am I reading? I always go back to The Art of Seduction, Robert Greene. I love that book. I love going back to it. I love The Daily Stoic. I love Daily Laws. I love Robert Greene a lot. I love his work. I think it's one of those things you study. You know, it's not just like you read the book and then you move on. So I like that about him.
I'm reading, maybe for the sci-fi nerds out there, I'm reading Asimov's Foundation books. Do you know them at all?
Oh, really?
And they're basically like I think Apple made a series of them, and I never read them before, and they're short, but there's like 6 or 7 of them. But basically the whole theme of it is like, if you knew society was heading into an absolute disaster and there was something you could do that would be painful but would shorten the time that disaster transpired, like, would you do it?
Oh, this is so stressful after work all day. I can't do that. I'm like Secret Wives of Mormon, whatever.
Like maybe some similar parallels to what's going on in the world right now, right? And I'm reading those, but typically, it's like some kind of biography or psychology book. Sometimes when I get stressed, I go into fiction. I was reading some Jack Carr books for a while, like just the stuff to like get out of it. Yeah. But that's what I'm reading right now, Asimov's Foundation.
That's how I go to sleep at 8 o'clock. I have a Kindle with the dark mode on. And instead of looking at my phone or a screen, I'll just pull up my Kindle and in 30 minutes I'm asleep. That's my sleep habit.
What I will say, and
that's smart.
I don't bring the phone in my room. I was saying the other day, I think the phone is disgusting, like an STD when I'm done with it. I'm like, get away from me. It's like, ugh.
Is that assuming that sometimes
like people that are like, I'm like scrolling in the morning and when I go to sleep, I'm like, literally get away from me. Don't touch me. Don't look at me. Don't be in my room. Unless it has a meditation on, I don't want to look at my phone.
I think there's 2 schools of thought with that. We fight about this.
I don't want to look at my phone.
I get that. I broke my phone about a month ago.
It's nice.
And I couldn't see anything on it. And I was just like, Sweet. Now that's because I have enough money to replace it, so it wasn't a big deal. But like for a day, I didn't have my phone, and I was just like, nice.
And you had no anxiety?
Yeah, basically, even doing work on your phone compared to a computer, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is.
I'll tell
it's
you
bad.
What it is.
It's dopamine sucking.
To-do list.
Yeah.
It's your employees' to-do list. It's your dad's to-do list.
Yeah.
It's your to-do list. It's his to-do list. And so what happens is it's everyone's to-do list constantly coming at you, and it's not proactive and it's not creative. It's reactive. So I don't want it in my space during my creative times, which are in the morning and at night. I think it's literally disgusting during those hours.
Well, I think it could be a distraction, but I wouldn't go so far as thinking, this is what we fight about. I'm like, she's like, how could you?
He wakes up, he's like checking Twitter. He's like, oh, did you see the debate? I'm like, get out. I'm literally listening to Chimes right now.
But okay. But
like,
I think
no, thank you.
I've gotten to a place hopefully as I've aged where like things online and in my inbox don't trigger me. I'm like, okay, I'll just respond to that later. Or I'll answer that later.
I have to have boundaries around it. I'm really thoughtful about the boundaries or else it just runs your whole day.
If you let it.
Yeah. Okay. Last question. So what is start with Lauryn. What is your daily routine? And I know it depends if you're on like hardcore work week, but like, when do you wake up in the morning? You said you're in bed early, like you have a stable sleep schedule. What does that look like?
Do you have an hour?
Yeah, I said I'll be back.
No, I'll be quick. I get in bed at 8:30 latest, sometimes 9. Like tonight I'll be in bed obviously a little bit later. My red light in my room, no light. I can't stand, you mentioned like light sensitivity. I can't stand it at night.
Yeah.
Red light. Chimes, like relax. I want like nervous system relaxed. Sometimes I put on a meditation, I read my Kindle, I go to sleep. Then I wake up at the same time every single day because we have a shade, and I highly recommend this, that goes down at 7.
That's so nice.
I don't want to be woken up by an alarm. Like why would I want to be jarred out of bed by my phone? Like that sounds like I'd rather be punched in the face.
Yeah. Nice cortisol rush. Like,
it's
beep. Okay, I'm up.
Who invented alarms? There's so many other ways to wake up. There's the hatch that slowly wakes you up. You could sleep with your windows open. I just don't find that inspiring. And when I wake up, I go right outside. Like first thing I do is go outside, and I'll sit outside for like 15, 20 minutes. And people are like, oh, but what about kids? My kids are either outside with me or they're not awake yet. And I just, in the morning, I just want to be low vibe. So whether I take a walk, I want electrolyte water. I don't have coffee for 90 minutes. It's a Huberman tip. And then I cold plunge sauna and go to the gym. So I'm not really working until probably about 10:30. I don't like to go into work first thing in the morning. What's your morning routine?
Well, it's funny. I did a podcast.
Get out of bed with your alarm. Check Twitter.
We're wired completely differently. But even though we're very similar in a lot of ways, we're wired differently.
He asked me for my social security number the other morning when I woke up. I looked at him like it was like...
I met another guy so I'm an Aries, and I never really look into these signs, but I met a guy. He's 83 years old, and we share the exact same birthday, March 28th. And we were talking. I'm like, and he asked me, he's like, hey, do you just wake up in the morning and feel like ready to go? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, same. He's like, it's probably hard to live with. But he was telling me he's like wired the same way, same birthday, different years, obviously. But I don't need this crazy wind up period, but I was talking to your husband. There's certain things that if I start to get off kilter that I'll do.
Like
right?
what?
Like if I'm not feeling well, or I'm if I'm not in the right headspace, like I'll have to sit down and journal or write my thoughts out. If I need to if I have access to a cold plunger sauna and I'm like and I'm not doing well, I'll do that. But what I've realized, we've done 800 or so shows, and I've heard every kind of morning routine you can hear. And what I found is that people that are so stuck on these routines all the time, if they get so stuck on them that they if they don't do it, their whole day is derailed. I can't do that either. I think it can work against you. So I look at it as like there's things you can get back to when you're not feeling well or you're not feeling in a great space, but you don't want to get in a situation where you depend on these things in order to start your day. Does that make sense?
I think you can only get usually 80% in, but it's just about doing things that avoid decision fatigue. So I know exactly what I'm doing in the morning, and if I don't get all of them, whatever. But the point is I don't have to think about it. I know I want to go outside. I know I don't want to check my phone. I know if I'm going to eat, I'm going to have protein. Like I'm just like I don't like a lot of decisions.
But I also think the last thing I'll say is like, if you get your life in order and you eat well and you sleep well and you get your circadian rhythm under control and you're not slamming yourself with caffeine and alcohol all the time, a lot of these routines are not necessary. It's just people have to figure out all these crazy windups because they live in an unhealthy way. And then in order to get out of bed, it takes them 3 or 4 hours because they're so fucked up from all the other stuff that they're doing. So what I try to do is like 90% of the time is live clean and not do those things so that when I wake up in the morning, I'm full of energy and ready to go.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
What a novel concept.
I like to be woken up like a cat. You and I are different. I did hear that men have testosterone, a surge when they wake up, and women don't. So I need a minute. I need a beat. I can't talk about like the pimple on your face at 6 a.m. Like I just can't call a friend. It's not me.
Okay. Lauryn, Michael, where can people follow you online?
They can find me at Lauryn Bosstick, at The Skinny Confidential, and at TSC Podcast.
I think I'm just Michael Bosstick, and then the podcast is Skinny Confidential, him and her. Or if you don't like ours, there's plenty at Dear Media.
And Mikhaila was on our podcast. Go listen. It was like different than I've heard you, and I've listened to a lot of your content. So
it was fun.
Go listen, and thanks for having us. That was fun.
Yeah, thanks for letting me host you in your studio.
Thanks for the steak that I want to watch you order tonight with the specific salt. Yeah. I can't wait to hear that.
You guys are going to watch and like giggle.
I can't wait. I love stuff like this.
Thank you, Mikhaila.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.